celebrate the beauty, wonder, and adventure of Vermont State Parks, a century of environmental stewardship, family tradition, and splendor out of doors. Good afternoon and welcome to Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. 2024 marks 100 years of Vermont State Parks. This anniversary commemorates a century of conserving and interpreting the state's natural, cultural, and scenic heritage while providing recreational opportunities for Vermonters and visitors alike. Nate McKean is the Vermont State Parks Director. He oversees the 55 state parks in Vermont, and later on in this program I'm going to challenge him to name them all. No, I'm just kidding, but thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and being on your program, Jolie.
We're happy to have you.
Okay.
And of course, this is 100 years. How are we celebrating?
Well, this is a remarkable milestone for Vermont's one-of-a-kind park system, no question about that, and we're celebrating in multiple ways all year long. Primarily, we want to make this about our visitors and celebrate the visitors from the 100 years that we've had the Vermont State Park System, and we're doing that through making a big effort to collect stories, memories, photos, and videos from our visitors over the years. And we have Vermont State Parks 100th anniversary webpage that we're using to collect those stories. If you go onto our website or Vermont Parks Forever website, you can click on the portal and submit your stories. And we really want to know what Vermont State Parks mean to our visitors and mean to you. And we're happy to accept all photos and videos too. And that's really going to help us plan ahead as we look forward to the incredible journey we have in front of us.
Sure, another 100 years.
Yeah, exactly. We have some pretty cool commemorative merchandise
here
for sale on our website or in the parks, individual state parks that you visit this summer.
Great. And
we also have more events than we've ever had planned for the parks with storytellers, musicians, various events, guided walks, and most importantly, nature interpretation and education.
So tons of events to celebrate.
Tons of events, yep.
And how did it all begin? What was the first state park?
The first state park was just, do you know what the first state park is?
Well, I do.
Okay.
We talked about this beforehand, but I've actually been there pretty common because it's really close to here.
That's
right.
Right.
Mount Philo.
Mount Philo State Park, just down the road from here in Charlotte. That's a park that was established in 1924 from a donation by Francis Humphreys. And that's one of our most popular hiking parks, and it has one of the most iconic views in Vermont from the summit, looking over the valley there and Lake Champlain and the Adirondacks. And from there, we've expanded into 55 state parks, as you mentioned, within the park system. And we like to say that no matter where you are in Vermont, you're only a few minutes away from a state park. And our infrastructure and the amount of visitors that we get, we consider ourselves a small city during the summer when on a busy weekend we could have 60,000 folks in the parks, and we have the infrastructure that's kind of equivalent to a small city.
Great.
Yeah. And
we spoke about this a little bit before the taping, but can you briefly touch on 100 years is a lot. Can you touch on some eras of Vermont State Parks?
Sure, yep. One of the big foundations of the park system was built by the Civilian Conservation Corps back in the Depression era, and there was multiple parks in Vermont were developed and built at that point, including Mount Philo. And then in the 60s, there was another big expansion of state parks and outdoor recreation, and we gained some parks and a lot of facilities during that period. And then it's been pretty much a little spurts of development and additional parks and facilities over the years. And we've had multiple peaks of attendance in the parks over the years. One was back in the 60s. And the attendance really is, it fluctuates, and it depends on what's going on in the country or in the state, weather patterns, World War II, things like that. And our second most important peak is right now. The parks are more popular and important than ever. And so we had a record year 2 years ago, and this past summer with all the rain, we still approached close to 1 million visitors.
That's so many, yeah.
Yeah.
So many Vermonters taking advantage of that.
Yes.
And some parks close over the winter, but plenty of them have winter activities as well. Can you speak to if parks ever have an off season?
I'm so glad you asked that question, and we are just as excited when folks visit our state parks in the winter as we are when they visit us in the summer. We count our attendance through counting the people that come through the park entrance, pay a fee or register. But many thousands more folks use our parks in the off season, and we don't use the term off season anymore. We call it the soft season, and it's pretty much between mid-October and mid-May. And that time of year is really important in the parks too, for snow sports, dog walking. It's a little quieter and tamer, but ice fishing, there's just a lot of great stuff happening in the parks in the off season.
Still plenty to do to get outside.
Soft season.
Yes, soft season. I'll start using that now.
I'm working on it too.
And of course, these are outside, but they don't run without the staff. Can you speak to the people you work with here?
Right, yeah. I think second to only our visitors, our staff are what makes Vermont State Parks so special. We have 450 seasonal staff that operate the parks for us in the operating season, May through October. And they have a lot of responsibility, and the talent and diversity of lived experiences and backgrounds on that staff is just incredible and a real strength. We have people that come from all over the country, and our employees have run the gamut from 16 years old to 90 years old, and some of them have had remarkable careers in other industries. Others are just starting out. Some are retired. We have a lot of Vermonters that fill our positions in the summer, and I'm pretty sure that everybody in Vermont either has worked for Vermont State Parks or knows somebody who has worked for Vermont State Parks. I would say on average about half of our park managers and assistant managers come from out of state, and the state park system is a real nice tool for inward migration to the state. And we have a very small but dedicated year-over-year, year-round team that manage the parks. And many of us have started out as seasonal employees, including myself. And many of us have moved to Vermont to work in state parks and have stayed here. A lot of folks, once they get here, they fall in love with the state.
And you mentioned this before we started, but where was your first job in parks?
My first job was at Little River State Park in Waterbury. Yep. Yeah, that's an amazing park.
And can you tell me about the parks modernization study?
Yes, so we're so excited to celebrate the previous 100 years, and we're really focused on that this year. Our biggest task, however, is to look forward and plan ahead. And part of that planning is going to be built from the stories and the experiences that we hear about from our visitors this year. That'll really help us stay centered on what's important to our visitors, what's been important over the years about the state park system. And then we also commissioned this study, and it's an assessment of the park system. Barry Dunn and Associates out of South Portland, Maine. They had a team that worked on this project with us, and we asked them to take a deep dive into our park system and really look at how we're organized, look at our facilities, compare our programming to industry trends and visitor demands, and really help us identify our strengths and then help us identify our gaps and things that we want to really work on or focus on to make sure we're not just focused on the past, we're focused on looking ahead, and that's going to be, those two components are going to be a big part of our planning as we move forward.
How about the Vermont Parks Forever program?
Vermont Parks Forever is a very special partner of ours. They're our partnering not-for-profit foundation, and they were established about 8 years ago, and they have a very small but very talented team of staff, and then a very energetic and committed board of directors. And together they establish business partnerships and seek individual membership and donations. And with that, those funds, they really help us up our game with the natural connections with our visitors. So one of their biggest achievements has been so far the Groton Nature Center, a brand new nature center built in the Groton State Forest, where we have 5 state parks within close proximity, and it's a remarkable facility. They also help us reach underrepresented underrepresented groups who haven't traditionally been able to come to state parks, or the state parks haven't been on their radar. But we all know the the health benefits and the physical and mental benefits of getting to the parks, and they really help us reach those groups through past programs, different promotions, and they helped us with internships. So we have a very close partnership with them, and they're very, very important to our future. And they're at VermontParksForever.org, and I'm meeting with them right after this.
Great.
Speaking with you, yeah.
And of course, we would be remiss if we didn't mention the Vermont Days, which is, I believe, June 8th and 9th this year, and that's an annual event. Is that right?
Yep, we have that. I think it's either the second. I think it's the second weekend in June. We partner with our friends at Vermont Historic Sites and with Fish and Wildlife, and that weekend is a great way to kick off the summer and entice folks into the parks. And it's free day use at historic sites and at state parks, and free fishing on that Saturday. So it's a great time to really take advantage, particularly for Vermonters, to go out and try the state parks for that weekend. We have a lot of events planned for that weekend, and prior to that, we have the eclipse coming up.
Absolutely, we'd be remiss to not mention that.
We all know about that, and we're pretty excited about the eclipse. It's been pretty difficult to plan for the eclipse, only because of the time of year and all the unknowns about the weather and how many people are going to be coming. But we've identified 16 parks where we're going to have them open, and we're going to have parking and viewing and portalets, and we're encouraging folks to go to one of those 16 parks, and that's on our website too, and they're all right within the core path of the eclipse. So we'll see what happens. We're pretty excited about that, as the rest of Vermont.
Yeah, even if it's cloudy, I'm sure it's still going to be a momentous occasion.
Exactly, yeah, and everybody will still be in Vermont, so that's good.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. For more information about any of the topics we've covered today, visit VermontStateParks.com. My thanks to everyone here behind the scenes at WCAX who makes this program possible. From all of us, have a good one.